William Harrington's life had always been an unyielding fortress of glass and steel, his empire spanning continents with skyscrapers that bore his name. At 52, his hair had begun to show streaks of silver, and the sharp blue eyes that once commanded attention now hid a soul marred by regret. His wealth opened doors and closed hearts. His penthouse loomed over Manhattan, but it could never reach the depths of his loneliness. His son, Michael, had been taken from him 10 years ago in a car accident, a tragedy that shattered what was left of his family. The loss was sharp, irreparable, yet it was a wound he carried alone, as he had carried much of his life. The pain of his son's death never faded, and each year William made a solitary pilgrimage to the grave of the only person who had ever mattered. But this year, as the anniversary of Michael's death approached, something felt different. The air was thick with tension, as if fate itself was about to unravel a secret that had long been buried. On the morning of the anniversary, William arrived at Willow Creek Cemetery in upstate New York, a quiet, somber place where the memory of the past was etched into cold stone. His hands gripped the cold marble of his son's gravestone, a simple tribute to a life stolen too soon. The wind whispered through the pines, but it wasn't the wind that caught his attention. It was the figure of a woman crying at his son's grave. "Who are you?" William asked, his voice sharp with suspicion. The woman looked up, startled, her tear-streaked face pale and worn. She stood, brushing her hands on her jeans, trying to gather herself. "I didn't mean to intrude. I'm Emma Davis. This is Lucas." She gestured to the boy beside her, a small child who continued to stack pebbles, oblivious to the tension in the air. William's gaze flickered between Emma and the child. There was something about the boy's face, his small features and the way he held his hands, that struck a chord within him. "You knew my son?" William asked, his voice faltering for the first time. Emma nodded, her lips trembling. "We were friends, a long time ago." The boy, Lucas, looked up at William, his green eyes wide with innocent curiosity. "Mama, is this man sad too?" he asked, his voice a clear, piercing sound that sent a chill through William's chest. A strange, unsettling thought crossed William's mind. The child's features were too familiar. "Emma," he said, his voice quieter now, a mix of disbelief and dread. "Why are you crying at my son's grave?" Emma knelt down, pulling Lucas close, her eyes welling up again. "Because he was important to someone I loved, and because Lucas is his son." The words hit William like a physical blow, as if the ground had been ripped from beneath him. He staggered back, unable to fully comprehend the truth of what Emma had just said. His son, Michael, had a child that he had never known about. The seconds stretched into eternity as William's mind raced to piece together a reality that no longer made sense. Emma's eyes were steady, but the pain in her voice was raw. "I didn't want to tell you like this. I wasn't sure if I should tell you at all." William's hands shook as he reached for the rose in his hand, the thorns pricking his skin without him even noticing. His mind was scrambling, the revelation too large to grasp. "Who's the mother?" he demanded, his voice cracking with desperation. Emma hesitated, glancing at the grave before her eyes met his again. "Sarah," she whispered. "Michael's girlfriend. They were together, but they kept it quiet. Especially from you." The name hit William like a bombshell, and his thoughts swirled in chaos. Sarah. He had never heard of her. His son had kept a secret life, a life that William had never been a part of. "Why didn't he tell me?" he asked, his voice quieter, more broken than before. "Because you weren't there," Emma replied, her tone cutting through the air like a knife. "Michael tried to reach out, but you were always too busy. The deals, the meetings, your empire." Her voice trailed off, the words too sharp for William to swallow in one breath. Emma's words rang in his ears, each one a reflection of his failure as a father. He had been absent, too consumed by his empire to see what his son truly needed. But as the pieces of Michael's secret life began to fall into place, the truth of his loss became even more unbearable. Lucas tugged at Emma's sleeve, looking up at her with wide, innocent eyes. "Mama, can we go home now?" he asked, his voice soft and tired. William watched the boy closely, his heart heavy with the weight of his own mistakes. There was no denying it now. This child, Lucas, was his grandson, and the knowledge hit him with the force of a wave crashing against the shore. His son had left behind a legacy, a child that he never got to know. But there was more to this story, much more. Determined to understand the truth, William tracked down Emma. He found her working at the Willow Creek Diner, a quiet little place that smelled of burnt coffee and old vinyl booths. She looked tired, her apron stained from a double shift, but there was a resolve in her eyes that had only grown stronger over the years. "I need to know more," William said, standing awkwardly at the counter. "About Michael, about Sarah, about Lucas." Emma's gaze was wary, but she nodded. "Meet me after my shift. I'll tell you what I can." That night, in the cramped apartment Emma called home, the walls cluttered with unpaid bills and toys, the truth began to unravel. Michael had met Sarah at a community college art class. He had been trying to escape the pressure of living in his father's shadow, and in Sarah he found a kindred spirit. They had dreams, dreams of a house by a lake, of children, of a life that William had never known about. But it wasn't just their dreams that William had missed. He had missed Michael's true heart. Michael had never told him about the art classes, never shared his passion for painting. And Sarah, his best friend, had been there for Michael, had been there for Lucas after the accident. "I didn't want your money," Emma said quietly, her voice full of tenderness. "I just wanted to protect him. And Lucas." William's chest tightened at the realization. This wasn't just a story of missed chances. It was a story of love and loss, of secrets and betrayal. He was learning more than he ever imagined about his son, and as he did, he knew that there was no turning back from the path that he had chosen. He had to be part of Lucas's life, no matter what the cost. As the investigation deepened, William's relationship with Lucas blossomed. Every visit, every moment spent with the boy felt like a step toward redemption. But there was danger still lurking, and as William dug deeper into the mystery of Michael's death, he discovered a web of lies and corruption that went far beyond what he had ever imagined. A year later, when the 11th anniversary of Michael's death arrived, William stood once again at his son's grave, the weight of everything he had learned pressing down on him. He had uncovered the truth, and it had changed everything. But the most important revelation came from Lucas, his grandson, who was now part of his life. "I made this for Daddy," Lucas said softly, holding up a small painting of a lake under a starry sky. "He liked stars, right?" William knelt down, pulling Lucas close. "He loved them," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "Just like he loved you." And in that moment, William knew that he had finally come full circle. He had failed as a father, but he was here now, doing everything he could to make things right. The past could never be erased, but it didn't have to define his future. He wasn't just rebuilding his relationship with Lucas, he was rebuilding his legacy, one small moment at a time.
As the years passed, William continued to find peace in the little things. He made amends with his estranged daughter, Elizabeth. He supported Lucas's dreams, nurturing him with the love and care that he had once withheld. And when the 12th anniversary of Michael's death arrived, William stood at the grave once more, a grandfather, a father, and a man who had finally learned the value of presence over power. "You've done more than okay, William," Emma said one evening as they watched Lucas chase fireflies across the lawn. And for the first time in his life, William truly believed her.